Cause the top of every mountain is the bottom of it. Yeah, activate, initiate, go to a new level, see me levitate. Watch me elevate to a better mind state in a positive dimension of a better fate. Talk about it, be about it, ain't no doubt you better go all out. When your heart starts racing, your body shaking, you only get one shot, so you got to take it. The pain.
Hey guys, it's Elijah Della Garza here. Welcome to the first episode of the Real Rebels podcast. This is something that's been on my heart to do for about a year and a half, and due to the circumstances in my life that were going on at the time, I was unable to get this thing going. If any of you are familiar with the story of Noah in the Bible, Noah ended up in the belly of the whale because he ignored God's call to go to Nineveh and share a message with them. So I felt led to do a couple things online, which is, believe it or not, against my personality. I'm kind of an introvert. I'm not really interested in fame or fortune from the perspective of notoriety from other people. So I shy away from these kind of things, even though I have a natural gift for speaking in front of crowds, and I've done well at that. So I decided, you know what? I've had some things happen in my life recently that freed up some time. An hour every other day or so is not going to hurt me in any way. So let's get this thing started. So why did I decide to call it the Real Rebels podcast? What does that mean? What is a rebel? Well, a rebel in my mind is someone like Jesus Christ who went against the norms of his time and against all tradition, and he paved a new path. He rebelled against what people thought should be, came with a new message, a new idea. So that's kind of the concept behind the Real Rebels. And what we're going to do is focus on, obviously, me, your host, but I'm going to bring on guests as we go along. The goal being to bring in people I consider real rebels, people who are going against the grain in today's time, specifically men who are leaders, who are putting God first in their life, above wealth, above machoism, above motivational speaking and being famous online, and all these other drivers that men have nowadays. We're seeking validation as a country of men on a whole, whether it's online or not, if it's at work, with our family, at church, in sports, in our business. We all want to be validated. We want people to pay attention to us. We want, as a man, someone to see us for who we are and really recognize us, acknowledge us, and what we've been doing, our talents, our gifts. It makes us feel needed and useful. So, there's a lot to being a man. It's a difficult thing. We are not blessed with inherent worth like a woman or children are. A woman can nowadays, even though it might be against what people do in historical format, a woman was at home taking care of the family. She didn't have to earn a living to be taken care of. Her inherent worth was being beautiful and being the woman and being at home and providing children and a household and food for the man who went out and did the hard work and the things that the woman didn't want to do. And that's a perspective that now gets looked upon as sexist or misogynistic. So we're going to dive into some of those kind of concepts. Really what sparked this was Andrew Tate. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Andrew Tate, but Andrew Tate has become an overnight phenomenon online, on social media, TikTok, Instagram Reels. There's motivational speeches, but also a lot of very, I would say it is, what's the right word for it? It's controversial, I guess is the best way to put it. His viewpoints sometimes get a little bit violent, misogynistic, like I said. And so there's a lot of people, specifically men, who his message resonates with. And it's because there's a lot of hurting men in our country. I'm one of them. I'm just a regular guy. I've been through divorce. I've lost businesses, been betrayed by friends and partners. So I understand what it's like to go through the pains and the struggles. And what I'm looking for is motivation and a sense of well-being, mental health, and energy, my testosterone level to come back up. And as I get older, it declines and I feel more lethargic and less creative. I want to go against that and get more youthful. And so I want to make more money. I want a beautiful woman, all these things that a man desires. And then you see this guy preaching this message about how to achieve that. And he's achieved it. He's rich. He's very famous now for his message mainly. Although he was, to start off, they call him Andrew Cobra Tate because he was a kickboxer. But I believe him and his brother made some nefarious money through online webcam modeling and such. He does have a lot of homes, a lot of nice cars. And so if you're looking at him from a world view only and taking spirituality, religion, character, morality out of it, and just looking at it from a perspective of the world's view of success, Andrew Tate is very successful. And so he's gotten credence amongst the men who watch him because they see what he's got, and he's good looking, he's healthy, he's rich, he's got a beautiful woman, he has this specific mindset. But while this mindset is controversial in today's political climate, with it being maybe not so politically correct or very not politically correct, the problem I have with it as a man is more so to do with the spirit of antichrist that comes with the message that I hear from a lot of people. Now, I'm not saying that from a religious standpoint. I'm saying it more from just a standpoint of men looking at other men for guidance and seeing their overly masculine, tattooed, cursing, aggressive, abrasive personalities and thinking that's something to aspire to because it's led them to success. I mean, let's just be real. There's equally an amount of men who have become successful without any of that chauvinistic, over-the-top masculinity stuff. Mind you, I'm a masculine man, as you can tell just by looking at me. Bearded, long hair. I don't have any tattoos, but I wear big jewelry and I ride a motorcycle and listen to heavy metal Christian music. And, I could be seen from the outside as one of these kind of guys that are very, masculine and misogynistic or whatever. This concept people have nowadays about conservatives, that they're going to be hillbillies and they like country music and beer and football and having sex and all this concept of a manhood that is a conservative man versus a liberal man nowadays who is, from the conservative perspective, a man who is emasculated, talks like a woman, dresses like a woman, acts like a woman, has no body mass, no muscular structure, and can be successful. But is that really something that men want to look at as a success? I mean, if you're a guy like me, the answer is no. I'm not going to look at a guy who's wearing pants that look like they got painted on and, these just gay sounding, for a better lack of a better term, just gay sounding guys, like effeminate, bent wrist. They talk like they're women. And to me, it's not a matter of, homophobia. I don't care who they have sex with at home. That's their business. It's just a matter of what's happening culturally in our country because of this emasculation of manhood and this toxic manhood that they talk about. So what is the Real Rebels podcast? Well, I want to address all these issues and I want to do it in a non-politically correct way, but try to be respectful and not be offensive to either party. I'm more of an independent-minded person, politically speaking. I'm not a liberal, I'm not a conservative, but I see good and bad in both of those parties, if you will. So I'm going to take more of an independent mindset on everything that we look at politically. Religion-wise, I am a Christian, but I'm not a religious Christian. I'm not a guy that is going to go to a Catholic church and do Hail Marys and rosary beads and light candles. I'm a guy who has relationship with God. I talk to him. I sing to him. I listen to him. I read his word, and it means something to me. But even though I'm a Christian and I'm a man that believes in God, I'm a man of God, I'm also a human. I'm just a male. I'm just a guy. I wake up in the morning and put 2 feet down on the bed just like anyone, on the floor from the bed just like anyone else does. things. Sometimes I drink alcohol. I've smoked marijuana before, when I was younger. And even nowadays, there's a struggle amongst men with pornography and addiction. And, there's all these struggles that men come across: cheating on your wives, violence, whether it's in the home or outside the home. There's just so much to being a man and so many struggles. And there's so many voices. There's just people everywhere telling us how we should think, how we should feel. And, none of it seems right. And nowadays, there's such a mentality of herd mentality. There's such this sheeple mindset where people don't have the ability to be independent thinking anymore. There's no more stoics left. There's no more guys who just sit and ponder and think about these things and are trying to find the truth. They're just followers, most of them. And to me, that's not a rebel. You're not a rebel because you wear cool clothes and try to get a tattoo and all this other garbage. That's not what's going to make you stand out as a man. Being a man is a matter of character. It's the actions you take. And none of us are perfect. Not one man watching this now, not one woman who's married to a man who's watching this can say that their husband is perfect or their person as a man, that they are perfect. It's impossible. There's no perfect humans. I believe there was one, Jesus, but outside of him, we're all imperfect. We've all failed. I've made mistakes. I've lied. When I was young, I stole, not anything significant, a magazine from a gas station, but it bothered my conscience, and I made a decision. I'm not going to be a thief, and so I make a choice to not steal. But I've still been accused of stealing by people, even though I didn't do it. And so, you have to deal with that, the accusation and the way those feelings are. So there's just so much to it. And where do you find guidance? Where do you find the truth and sharpen your sword? The iron the iron sharpens iron thing. Where are these men? I don't see them anymore. It's hard to find them. And if you do find them, they're so caught up in social media, work, success. They barely have time for their families. So I think overall, what this podcast is about being honest, about being open, about being candid, not showing you the best foot forward, showing you the real, the genuine, how life really is. I'm not going to jump on here and pretend that I'm a millionaire and show off my expensive car and nice jewelry and clothes to impress you. That's, to me, it used to be something I did. I've done it most of my adult life. And then in the last few years, it just became this thing that was just, it's a turnoff now. I find it just gross almost to see people just clamoring for attention, and these clout chasers who are just like following the people they look at as more successful, the influencers online, and just commenting on every one of their posts, and butt kissers, to be honest with you. And the industry that I work in for most of my life was the roofing industry. I mean, it is filled with chauvinistic guys who are all about showing off their big truck on big wheels with tattoos and how many millions they sold last year. And it's all just this dick measuring contest all the time, just to see who's better than the next guy and validate yourself. And it comes from this place of ego and it's insecurity. It's unadulterated, just unabashed insecurity that we walk around with pride showing to other people. And when you aren't in that mindset anymore and you see it, it just becomes gross to you. It's like, why? What is wrong inside of us that we need that validation so much? What did we not hear from our parents? What did we not experience in life that gave us the ability to love ourselves? What's missing? And so we're going to dive into some of that. All that being said, the Real Rebels podcast is about taking the Andrew Tate mentality that is pervasive, the liberal, effeminate, emasculated mentality that is pervasive, and throwing them out the window because they're just man's answers to man's problems. It's like when I went to therapy and I found out from my therapist that they went to therapy. I was like, what? You don't have it figured out? You go to a therapist because you have problems, but you're going to sit here and teach me how to be a better person? Like, I can't do it. I'm sorry. It's major turnoff for me. There hasn't been any books I've read, therapy I've gone to, or any of these things that have really worked for me the way that a relationship with God has worked for me. And that isn't from a super churchy spiritual perspective. It's just from a wisdom principles perspective, basic logic perspective. You know, nowadays I think the real rebels are guys who are unafraid to announce that they love God, that they have a passion for Jesus Christ. That's a real rebel. Not everyone who's swimming with the school of fish downstream all together in concert, same clothes, same words, same attitude. I mean, it's like I watched my young sons. I have a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old son, or 14 and 15 now. And you know, they're in junior high, high school age, and the things they talk about now, this Riz and all this terminology the kids have, it's hilarious to me. Like, you know, like my kid telling me, I'm doing too much. You're doing too much, Dad. You know, and it's just all these things that they understand, sus, and all these words that just to me sound retarded. But that's the way they talk nowadays. And, you know, you watch them, every one of them with their little haircuts and the way they talk and the games they play. And you just have this culture of just sheep, people just trying to copy each other. When I was growing up, I felt like we were just original. We had people with imagination. There was different personalities at school. There was different cliques. But some of us never grew up from that stuff. We're 40 years old, 50 years old, 30-year-old males still trying to compete with the next door neighbor now rather than the kid in class. And it's just, we got to break away from that mentality. But in order to do that, how do we do that? Well, we need a different guide. We need something else that we can look to that is going to give us that wisdom and those principles that can build our character and teach us how to be the men that we're really supposed to be. Men who are honorable, men who work hard, but have a balance in their life, a work-life balance, to spend time with their family, their friends, with their God, and they have trust from the people that are around them. They've grown their character and they've shown themselves to be approved by the things that they've done, the things that they've studied, the work that they've accomplished. You know, there's a lot to being a man. And if you really look at it from a biblical standpoint, you realize everything rises and falls on leadership. And as the man, you are the leader of your household. And that's the beginning of society. So we have a great responsibility. Men leaving the home to be with another woman, leaving their kids behind, women leaving their husbands behind to be with another man because of their own selfish pleasure and this justification society gives us now to just abandon our principles, abandon our morality, just find your happiness, find your truth. Let me explain something to you. There is no your truth, okay? There is the truth. This wall is a brick wall. I can imagine it's drywall all day long and pretend it's drywall. Try to convince you that it's drywall, but it's not. That may be my truth. I believe that it's a drywalled wall. But in reality, the truth is that is brick and it's never going to not be brick. Okay? And that is a very simple illustration, but it is really intuitive because that's how I see the world now. It's just people getting so myopic and just so into their own self and their own feelings and own emotions and justifying and rationalizing these decisions they make that are running families, running jobs, running careers, running lives. And I've been party to it. I'm not innocent of these things. I'm not preaching at you. I'm looking for answers just as much as you are. And that's hopefully what this podcast is going to provide. We're going to talk to real rebels, guys who aren't doing it the same way everyone else is doing it. And, you know, I'm not going to pick on these guys, but there's a lot of personalities out there right now. You have the Brad Lees and the Andy Elliots and these just host of characters, whether it's in the real estate field, the construction field, motivational speaking field, Gary V's to whomever. And we just admire and look up to these people so much because they have a platform, you know, and they get out there and they've been successful. And so because of the dollars in their bank account, we are deciding that we're going to listen to them as a moral authority, take their advice to heart, And they talk about all kinds of stuff. They're not just talking about business. They're talking about religion and sex and marriage and relationships and all kinds of things. So what I want to do is talk about current events, things that are happening in the culture, and discuss them in a countercultural way. Look at them from a biblical perspective and not from a overly religious, Bible thumping, holy roller perspective, because nobody likes that. It's a turnoff. I'm just a real guy. I curse. I make mistakes. I do things that I shouldn't do, and I have to ask God and my family for forgiveness and do better. And I am far better of a man than I was when I was young, and I continue to grow. But at the beginning of this this podcast, there's a theme song I'm going to work on. Facebook's probably going to end up blocking me on this because I played some POD off their new album. But this song is just so powerful and it resonates with me so strongly. It starts out with this verse that says, "The top of every mountain is the bottom of another. The top of every mountain is the bottom of another." And then he goes on to say, "Your pain today is your power tomorrow." And he talks about how he won't bow down. And it's just such a beautiful message. It makes me emotional just to think about it because it's the truth. It's what I've experienced. In my career, I've produced, I don't even know how many millions. I mean, I tried to count at one time. I got up past $25 million in revenue. And I'm sure it's much more than that if I sat down and put the pencil to it, because I wanted to get online and make a post about, hey, to date, I did $50 million in revenue. And so I'm somebody, I'm special. And I just stopped myself mid-stride, just like, what am I doing? Why is that a validating factor for anybody? Because someone has money in their bank account does not make them a good person, my friends. It doesn't make them a moral authority. To be honest with you, what it does is it makes them a fraud. On the whole, rich people are frauds. They have learned how to put forward the best foot always. The best clothes, the best car, the best house, the prettiest wife. And you don't know the truth. And I've been on that side of the fence, so I know for a fact, not only in my personal life, but friends. I have a lot of very influential friends in my network, people who have high net worths. I don't know how I met them. God just brings them into my life. But the friends that I've made, I've seen behind the scenes what they're going through. And you know what? What they put on social media, that's not the real life. No one's real life is on social media. Okay? They just show you the good stuff. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dive into the bad stuff. We're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to push all the good stuff away because that's not helping anybody. And that's just, honestly, it's creating a comparative world where everything is just robbing your joy because you're looking at someone else's success and achievements, wishing that you had done that instead of staying in your lane, doing what God intended you to do. You have a gift. Every one of us do. I'm a very gifted human being. I don't know why God chose to gift me in so many ways. It's almost confusing because I don't know which direction to go with some of it. And I'm very inconsistent in some things. There's some things that I've just done, like I will not pull away from it. I'm going to stick to this and stay until they make me go. And then there's other things that, like this podcast, for instance, that I've thought about starting, recorded, and stopped and never just gone through with it. And today I had to make a decision of no, today is the day. I'm starting and I'm not going to stop. This is going to be one of those things that I do that's consistent. And there's a reason behind it. That why is you, my friend. And it's me. It's us as men becoming better fathers, becoming better leaders, becoming better teachers to the people who follow us, becoming the friends that we need to be. And really just being the hands and feet of Jesus on a daily basis. Showing people that God is real by being obedient to his voice. But let me tell you something. You can't hear God's voice if you're not listening for it. If you're not seeking it. If you don't even care to know what he has to say. You're just living life on your own terms. 100% about what I want today. I want this, I want that, I want this house, that car. Those are my goals. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to achieve them. And once I achieve them, then all of a sudden, and it doesn't fail, okay? I've seen entrepreneurs, small business people, one after another, succeed eventually, financially, and then validate all their choices. Now, all of a sudden, everything they do is right. They are perfect. They can justify and rationalize every decision because their success has validated them. Okay? So I want to bring about a new form of validation. I want to validate ourselves through our character, not our bank accounts. Okay? So all that being said, we're going to keep these to an hour or less. I've already been going at it for 25 minutes. So we're going to dive into the topic that we're going to start off with here, which is this worldview versus the godly view of what is a man. Okay. So we're going to first look at Andrew Tate because this is one of the inspirations of this podcast. I actually like the guy from a certain perspective, even though some of the things he says turns me off a lot. I love his bravado, his ability to just stand there shamelessly and say what he thinks and feels. And you know, so many of us are afraid to do that nowadays because we're afraid of the backlash of society coming against us and putting us down or canceling us. Okay. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have zero concern about being canceled. You can cancel me right now if you want. I don't care. I'm not looking for validation by doing this. I have pure motives. I'm not trying to get rich. I'm not trying to get famous. I just want answers. Okay. And I hope you want answers too. So we're going to look at some of the things that these guys say. We're going to analyze them. We're going to look at them from a worldly perspective first, and then we're going to look at them counterculturally from a biblical perspective and try to find some light in this and really understand, is this right, what he's saying? Even though it may sound right, it may sound encouraging, validating, motivating. It may make me feel like, yeah, exactly. Don't let people take advantage of me. I'll never let someone put one over on me. I'm going to put up my guard and do everything I can to get them back. That's a worldview. And the Bible would say something like, turn the other cheek when someone does something to you. If they ask you to go a mile, go 2 miles. Forgive them. So, you know, those are counter to each other on every level, those two mentalities. So let's dive into this. We're going to look at a Piers Morgan interview of Andrew Tate and see what he has to say, and then we're going to talk about it for a minute. So let's go to this clip real quick and see what this guy's got in his brain.
Do you respect women?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't I?
Do you think that 18, 19-year-old women are more attractive than 25-year-old women?
I think there's attractive people. That's a loaded question. I don't know.
Well, it's not really, is it?
I can't.
You know why I'm asking it?
Of course I do, but I can't sit here and
say. For the benefit of viewers who don't know why I'm asking, you said this. In general, this is also one of the reasons men find youth attractive. You want to blow up the internet? I'll blow up the internet right effing now. The reason 18 and 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25-year-olds is because they've been through less dick. People say, oh, you can't say that, but yes, I can. A 19-year-old is more attractive than a 26-year-old woman, and I'll tell you why. Because that 26-year-old has talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been effed and dumped more times, more arguments, more mess, more for me to clean up. That is misogyny.
Why?
Because you are encouraging a mindset about 25-year-old women that makes them sound out to be infinitely less desirable than 18, 19-year-olds, and having.
Okay, so that's Andrew Tate getting a loaded question right out the beginning of this interview from Pierce about a comment that he made clearly that he's being quoted on about 18-year-old women being more attractive than 25-year-old women. Now, obviously, we're missing some context there. I think Pierce isn't being fair. He's just reading the quote without the context around it. And it sounds really bad what he's saying, but I think there is some truth to what he's saying there. Is there a reason that men find a younger woman more attractive? I don't think the age has anything to do with it in this circumstance. I think what he's saying is definitely relevant to men nowadays, and that's the truth in it. The fact that women have changed in the last 20 to 30 years with liberation of femininity and the feminine movement and all this, you've got women behaving like men now. The stock value of a woman has gone down in America because of the way that they behave. I don't disagree with that. I mean, I'm a passport bro. I married a Hungarian woman first, and now I'm married to a beautiful Russian woman. And so I understand that the American culture and the way that women are here is not successful for what I'm looking for in a marriage. I want to get married to someone with traditional values that wants to have children and a household and create success in a different form than what the woman of today looks for, which is a rich guy to take care of her. She's had a load of sexual partners already. She's not loyal. She's seeking her own happiness. There's a good chance she's going to leave you, divorce you. And at the end of the day, you could end up broke after all that hard work, effort, and energy you put into something, just because she decided to change her mind. And there's all these voices justifying and rationalizing things. And so she just decides, you know what? I'm gone. I'm leaving you for another man. I'm sick of you. I'm not committed to this anymore. And she takes the guy for half of his value. Is that fair? I mean, no, it's not. I've been through it. And it wasn't half of my value. It was all of my value. My ex-wife put me through the ringer. She took everything that I had. I built quite an impressive empire of real estate and roofing, and she's not even intelligent enough to have gotten me and taken half of it. She ruined it for both of us. That's how dumb she is. She literally decided, I'm going to just scorched earth everything. So I lost my businesses and my properties and my name on companies that I was partners on, all because of decisions that happened between she and I. And trust me, I'm not blaming her. I take full responsibility for my relationship there. But my point is, I've been through it. And so I understand what he's saying. His point is, a younger woman in America may be more attractive to a man because of the fact that she hasn't had as many sexual partners. She hasn't been tainted. More so, what I've experienced is dating a woman who's been through a few different relationships. They have some baggage that they carry along with them, and you know, they want to bring it along into your relationship and treat you like the last guy. Maybe he was verbally or physically abusive, or he was a certain type of sexual partner to her, and then you experience her being defensive or you know, trying to reenact things that happened in her last relationship that don't vibe with you. You know, those are the kind of things that we're talking about. I believe from a biblical standpoint that God had a lot of wisdom in placing a man and a woman together, but monogamy is not a popular thing anymore. You know, men and women are just free to go do whatever they want to do. Marriage is becoming less and less attractive to men nowadays. The statistics on this are supporting what I'm saying. Men would rather just be on their own, have a side partner that's their sexual buddy, their girlfriend or whatever, but even that can become too entangled. So some of them are just saying, I just want to focus on me, my career, and my life, and they're not starting families, or they're not doing the things that men should do. So, you know, this Andrew Tate perspective, the way he talks about things, and the I'll just blow up the effing internet, and they've just had so many dicks and all this kind of stuff, like, that's the stuff that turns me off. You know, it's like I'm listening to him, and it's like you have a potentially intelligent point underneath there, but you're just destroying it with the way you're talking like an idiot. You know, and you're bold about it. So, and I think he finds boldness in the fact that he knows he's not wrong at some level, and so he's like sticking to that and just wrapping all the other crap that he's saying around it, and it holds on to the concept still because, you know, in his mind he's right. So I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to talk like that anymore. I don't want to be seen as this macho, over the top, manly man who is more manly than the other men. You know, if you're a real man, you don't have to try to be more manly than other guys. Okay, guys, just be a man. All right? Don't talk about it. Be about it. Show up for your family. Put the sauce down. Put the drugs down. You know, turn the sports channel off. Go spend time with your kids, with your wife. Those are the things that real men do. They get up and they do hard stuff. You know, when things are uncomfortable and difficult, that's when real men show up. That's what built our country and this society, is real men, hard men doing extremely hard things. Coal miners and concrete workers and roofers and framers and ditch diggers, guys that go into sewers and just engineering, architecture across the board. This world was built by men who did extremely difficult things, and a lot of time gave up their health or their life to do it. So let's not disregard today being Memorial Day, and let's take a moment to give some thanks to all the armed services, men and women who have served our great country and countries around the world. And, you know, we remember our soldiers today for the great freedom that they afford us. But look at what we've done with this great freedom. Look at our country. It's in moral decline. And it's not just the family structure. It's all the way up to the highest levels of government, down to the poorest households. The country as a whole, and primarily because of media, in my opinion, and the influence that it has on people, has created this world of misinformation and too much information. Just, I'll give you a good for instance. This voice on TikTok now. Everyone does the layover of this voice with their captions on their video. And this guy speaks like he's from, you know, Dateline. And he's going to give you the facts right now. And so I've watched videos that are just straight up talking BS. There's no fact in that whole entire video. Just literally, here's 10 things you didn't know. Number 1. And then it lists off 10 things, and I'm knowledgeable to these things, and I'm listening going, not a single one of those things is true. But the way this guy's voice sounds, this overlay that they put on all these videos, I literally have had my kids and friends and people come up to me and go, hey, look at this. Look at this video I got. Watch this. Did you know that? And it's like, wow, we are in trouble, ladies and gentlemen. We are in so much trouble. This is not reliable sources of information that we're seeking anymore. We're not trying to validate what's wrong and right anymore and make sure that we're on the right side. We're just taking anything we see on a reel and a little post somewhere and just repeating it, and we're making it the truth. But let me just tell you, you can repeat a lie 100 times and it doesn't make it any more true. And I can tell you from personal experience in the last year and a half, the things that I have gone through, people just making stuff up about me. I'm talking about, I put myself in a position by buying a piece of real estate with a creative finance deal that brought scrutiny upon every decision I made. And it wasn't something I was used to or something I was looking forward to or even expected. I thought I was just going to go take a property and do something with it. But due to circumstances out of my control, my lender didn't come through the way they were supposed to. The seller had a breach of contract. There was a lot of factors that turned this deal upside down, and I ended up losing it. In the interim, I got treated like a criminal by people who have no idea who I am. They've never met me. They've never talked to me. They've never spent time with me. They just go do internet searches and find anecdotal, information and think that they figured something out. And it's ridiculous, to be honest with you. I've experienced it firsthand, what misinformation can do to you, being canceled, if you will, by people in a little community. And so it's something that I've experienced and I've felt the pain of, and I can tell you it is extremely hurtful to have things talked about you that aren't true. But you know what? As much as I wanted to go in there and fight those things that those people were saying and argue against it, and sometimes I did, I'd go online and I'd leave little smarmy comments to get back at them thinking, oh, I got one. And it just, I look back on it now and it's just like pure foolishness. Just what was the point in it all? From their side or my side, it was just pathetic, to be honest with you. And it's embarrassing for all the parties involved. It's the people who are talking out of their rear end with no real information, and then me responding to it, validating what they're saying by defending myself. I've just learned as I move forward, let the peanut gallery talk. Let them say whatever they want to say. Their opinions are irrelevant. They're not, most of the time, if not 99% of the time, those people are the ones that aren't doing anything, okay? They have no life. They're the losers. They think they're winners because they're successful in their own right. Maybe they got their house paid off and a nice car in the driveway, but they don't have anything valuable to do with their life outside of criticize another person that they've never met, don't know what their intentions are, where their heart is, what they believe, what they've done in their life. They don't know the stories behind the negative that you may find about me. or what's gone on. The ex-wife and I had a tumultuous divorce. There were things said and published online that you can go find still, I'm sure, that say all kinds of things that aren't true. And some of it is true. The thing about me is I'm the kind of guy, I stake my reputation on my honesty. And I'm honest to a fault, to the point where sometimes maybe I shouldn't say everything that I say. You know, I've learned, like when you go in courtrooms, don't offer up information they didn't ask. Don't go off and just tell them everything. Answer the question shortly and succinctly, you know? So regardless, the point of what I'm trying to make is that the information that we receive nowadays, whether it's from online, gossip from neighbors, friends, social media, you know, the news channels in particular have been caught lying hundreds of times now. So where do we find the truth in all of this? The actual truth, not people's truth, not their subjective truth, but the objective truth of the situation. For me, it's you know, I've gone far away from God in my life to the point of being a complete sinner, just partying like an animal, way too much money, having fun, living the debauchery lifestyle when I was young, just being a young man. And I've come into a different place in my life where success is now measured by how much I please God, how much time I spend with my family, the legacy I leave behind with the lives that I touched. That's generational wealth to me, not the money I have in my bank account, right? And so if we can break this down to the core, and let's stop looking at people who have a lot of money as our moral superiors, listening to them as if they know what they're talking about. And let's look to the actual moral superiority here, which is God, the creator, the intelligent designer, the one who set up this moral structure of wrong and right, the laws of nature. You know, it doesn't matter who you are as a human. If someone steals something from you, you don't like it. We can all agree, cross humanity. If I feel like I own something and you come take it from me without my permission, that is wrong, right? Do you agree? Of course you do. No one disagrees with that. So there's laws in this world, the laws of nature. Gravity, for instance, no matter who you think you are, if you jump off of a high building, you will hit the ground and die or break a bunch of bones at a minimum. It's never going to change. That's just what it is. We get into that and you take that concept back to the God concept, and we're not going to go into a deep evolution, creation, you know, conversation, but I'm just going to say this. Being a person who was looking for the objective truth, not trying to validate my beliefs that I grew up in a Christian home, I was trying to invalidate them, to be honest with you, as a rebellious teenager. I wanted to figure out why all these things were not true and how to prove my parents wrong, prove the people at church wrong. And all I did is end up proving them right. That God is real. He is involved in my life. He is the grand designer, the architect of everything you see around you, nature, your own body, just the simple structure, not simple on any level. The complexity of the human eyeball is a miracle. The way that it functions, if you go look at the science of that, and you can say that that happened accidentally, it just doesn't make sense to me. I can't logically believe that. I think it takes more faith to believe there is no God than to believe that there is a God. And so let's assume there is a God, and that's something you believe in as well. Okay, and I know there's going to be people out there that watch this to say there is no God. They want to argue. Go right on ahead. You came from a monkey. You evolved into some ape missing link thing. You go for it. You be that. I'm going to be an intelligently created, designed by the creator of the universe creation. Okay, and I'm going to tap into that. And the reason is because that's the source of my being. That's the one who breathed life into me and had a plan for me and knew me before I was born, who I was going to be, the talents I would have, the brain power I would have, the abilities I would have. So I'm going to look to that as my source and trying to figure out who I am, where I go, what I'm doing, who I'm supposed to become, what's my destiny at the end of the day. And what I've found in life, and this stands to be true today, is no matter how many times I've tried to do it my way, I'll have a moment of success. I might make a bunch of money. I might get a pretty girl. I might find a nice car. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I will always end up failing when I do it Elijah's way in some form or fashion. But when I follow God's path, and this is hard for me to say, okay? This is not the way I always felt, ladies and gentlemen. This is a rebellious, against my nature thing that I'm saying right now. This is just the truth. The truth. When I trust in God, I lean on him 100%. I don't lean on my own understanding, but I just give it to him and say, Lord, you just show me what I'm supposed to do. Guide me. I put the keys in your hand. You drive. Okay? I end up succeeding wildly, just in so many ways. And it's not just financially. Finances are important, ladies and gentlemen, but they're not what makes the world go around. Okay? You can live without finances. I can promise you, if you work your whole life for wealth, and then you get to the point where you're 50, 60 years old and you get cancer, I can assure you, you would give up every dollar you have to stay alive on this earth a little bit longer. Okay? Life is more precious than money. Way more precious than money. Money is the root of all evil, is what the Bible says. But it doesn't say money itself. It says the love of money is the root of all evil. Okay? Very commonly misquoted scripture. So if you love money, then you've got a problem and you need to readdress. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm just saying, as a man, if our focus is on money, showing off to people how rich we are, getting nice cars so that we can show people that we have something better than they have, if that's your motivation, you are missing the mark. It's just not what it's supposed to be about. And I'm tired of seeing it. I'm tired of seeing good men, good-looking, intelligent, strong men that God gifted with something deep inside of them to go and change the world. And the only thing that they can think of is their next lay, their next pay, their next day of fun and enjoyment. They don't want to do anything hard. They don't want to get their hands dirty. They don't want to go hug a homeless person and buy them some food and do something good for someone who's actually in need. Help a widow, help an orphan child. Those people really exist in this world. And we don't do anything about it, men, because we're so focused on us and what we want with our lives. So what I challenge you to do today is to just try to kind of readdress what manhood is for you. Don't look at it from this Andrew Tate perspective. I beg of you. There's just no need for it. I mean, I want to be the man. I want to have money. I want to be rich and travel and do fun things. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with all that, as long as it is done properly. You achieve it in a manner that you can go to bed at night and sleep well because you know you have integrity. You did it with character. You did it with honor. You put people before profit. Those are the concepts that we all like to talk about. We present it that way on our website when we're building our business. But when it comes down to the actual decision making on a day-to-day basis, a lot of times we choose selfishness. We choose what's easy, what's good for us, not what's good for the other person, right? And that's what the Andrew Tate mentality is. It's me, me, me. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to hustle. I'm going to make all this money, become rich, get nice cars and houses, big jewelry. People are going to look up to me now. I'm going to get a beautiful woman. And if she does me wrong and I don't like the things that she says, she's gone and I'm just going to get a better one. Is that really what we want? Because I can tell you, if it was fulfilling, when the men that did those things achieved those goals, they would be happy. And yet I still see them struggling. Poor to rich. No wife, ugly wife, drop dead gorgeous supermodel. They struggle with the same problems. Trust me, okay? We're not all so different than we really think. We're all just human. We all bleed. We all breathe oxygen. We all have to have food. We all use the restroom, okay? There is no escaping humanity, whether you have money or not. Rich people get sick too. Rich people get depressed too. And let me tell you, as someone who has been both broke, I'm talking about poor, broke, nothing, to someone who has had millions of dollars in their bank account that could do anything they wanted to do at any time of day. There was no trip I couldn't take, no procedure I couldn't get if I was sick. There was no flat tire that ailed me. There was no problem at my business, my home, my church. There was no problem anywhere that I couldn't solve with money. It solved all problems for me. Okay? I've seen both sides of that coin. And I can tell you, I was legitimately more miserable with more money from this perspective. The amount of stress, things that were needed from me, the less time I spent with my family, the more I spent my time focused on problems that were occurring that I needed to solve so I could make more money, the less I found myself, the more I lost myself. And the love that I had for me, I started neglecting Elijah. My health went down the crapper, started eating poorly, didn't work out as much as I should, not spending time with my family. My life went in a direction that I just really didn't want it to go. And I had to wake up one day and realize, like, what am I doing? Yeah, I'm making a bunch of money, but am I living a fulfilled life? And the answer was no. Even to this moment right now, part of this, what I'm doing with this podcast, is still a search for meaning. I'm just a guy that wants to figure out what my purpose is on this earth and how God can use me to the best of my abilities, how my gift that he gave me can make room for me somewhere where I can go be recognized for the child of God that I am and do good for others around me. I want to help other people achieve success, not just me. I want to, a rising tide raises all the boats, right? Why is it these business owners, especially in the construction industry and real estate industry, there's guys at the top that make all the money and just all their little peons below them just living a meager lifestyle? Why are we not creating an atmosphere and an environment where everyone can win? Why is it that I have to keep all the money because I'm the guy that came up with the idea? Not saying that there's anything wrong with making the most money as a CEO. I'm not one of those types. I'm the guy who has run and started many companies. But at the end of the day, I also made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for all my reps, all my crews. I paid my admin at my office, my controller, who was a female, more money than any man who made money in my company as someone who worked in the office. And it was because of what she did. It wasn't based on her sex. It wasn't based on her color. It was based on the content of her character. She showed up. She was responsible. She was trustworthy. She was honest. She did anything I asked. She worked her butt off. She gave me results. She brought me solutions when she brought me a problem. I paid for that because it was worth it. And she made my life better, and I did everything I could to make her life better. And that's the kind of thing I'm talking about in every facet of our lives, our personal life with our family, our wives in particular. You know, there's a pecking order here, guys, and we got it all out of order. When your priorities aren't in order, that's when you see things start to fall apart in your life. Okay? First God, then your wife, then your children, then your job and your friends and your habits and hobbies and fun and sports and all that. And a lot of times we got that whole list flipped upside down. God comes absolutely last. Sports, fun, and the things we love are super priorities to a lot of us, or work. Men in particular, they find their value in the work that they do. And it becomes this point where we don't look at it as this thing we have to do anymore that we hate. I don't want to go to work. I'm a young man and I just want to have fun. And then we start to realize, I'm over that. I want to be validated. I want success. I want what other people have that I see. And so we go to work and try to become something. And then when it works, we start to enjoy that. That becomes who we are. And so many of us have ourselves wrapped up in our business identity. The identity you have as the CEO of your company is who you think you are. And it's not. There's so much more to you than that. While that is massively important, as it provides for your family, it provides for the people who work for you, it produces a service for the community. Across the board, there's good coming from that. I'm not making the point that it's bad. I'm just saying that's not the first priority. The first priority has to be God, and then your wife and kids, and then your business, which serves those other purposes. So, anywho, the Andrew Tate mentality is something that I struggle with. I'm not going to lie. I have those thoughts. They're natural to a man to have them. Okay. You can get upset. Just last week, I got upset. I was angry. Someone did something to me that I did not like. They stole something from me. And I don't know who they are. They took some rings that were very precious to me. A ring my father gave me, a ring one of my best friends gave me, who was his grandfather's, and then a ring that my wife gave me for Christmas. All three of them at the same time got taken from me. And Elijah lost his cool. I became a not easygoing person, okay? I was violently angry because something got taken from me. And I had to readdress and sit back and say, oh, what's going on here? Are things that important to me? They're not. I can let that go. I'm a warrior. Warrior can never be blockaded. I will never let a thing come into my life that is so precious to me that if I lost it, I would lose who I am. And the same thing goes for our businesses. You know, I had a business when I was a young man, Roofing Systems of America in South Florida. I dropped out of college. I started this business with my father after a couple of years of really hard work and dedication, doing low man stuff, you know, picking up trash, hauling trailers, doing stuff on the roof. And then I got my shot to go become an entrepreneur as a young man with my father. And I studied. I read all the Rich Dad Poor Dads and How to Get Rich and all those books that, you know, just the library of knowledge you need to go out there and become a successful entrepreneur. I just dove head into it and I gained this information and I made a deal with my dad and we went and did this company and I built my identity around this business. This was who I was. I was Roofing Systems of America. Okay. And when the economy fell out in 2007 and 2008 and people started robbing me, I didn't do anything wrong. That business didn't fail because Elijah did something bad. I did good business. We treated every customer with respect. We made sure to go back and do the right job no matter what. If it costs me, I'll lose money on the job before I would let someone accuse me of being a profiteer and greedy. I'll go back and fix it, even if it's at my cost and I make nothing. I want to do the right thing. That's how I ran my business. And we had work, but then all of a sudden the work stopped because people couldn't take that insurance money and buy a roof with it anymore. Now they had to go, you know, pay their mortgage because they lost their job and their car was getting repossessed. The economy fell out and it was just too much to handle. I was too young, too immature. I didn't know how to pivot. I didn't know how to change my business, downsize and get rid of extraneous costs and overhead. I didn't understand what to do. I just sat in a seat on a daily basis, pretending that everything was okay while the world was on fire around me and I was losing it all. And I went from a fleet of trucks and trailers and scissor lifts and kettles and workers and a factory 10,000 square foot with pallets of material everywhere and forklifts and getting sent on cruises for selling millions of dollars in materials and races and concerts and anything and everything I wanted. I had money in the account and lived a privileged life and it just disappeared just like that. And as a young man, 23, 24 years old, with a new wife and a new child that had just come, I was devastated. I was depressed. I lost who I was. I couldn't understand what had just happened. I felt no value. I felt no worth. I felt so insignificant and like such a loser that I had just failed everyone around me. And it was because my worth was built up in that business. My worth was built up in what I was doing, not who God made me to be. It wasn't the people I was helping and all the stuff that I should be focusing on. It was just the business and the success, the notoriety it gave me, the praise that other people gave me because look at Elijah, look at what he did. He's a savant. He's so great at this. He's such an amazing entrepreneur, such a young man. You know, it would make me feel so good when people would ask me how old I was and I would tell them I'm 22 and they would go, "What? You're a millionaire? You're 22? You own this business and built it all from the ground up? I thought you were 30, man." From one perspective, I guess my face didn't like the fact that they thought I was 30 when I was only 22. But my maturity level at that age and the decisions I was making, the things I was doing, made them feel like I was more mature than I was. I was a 22-year-old man with employees who were 55, 60 years old, who were coming into my office and I was reprimanding and telling them how I wanted them to go do it. And then they would go do it and succeed and come back and say, "Thank you, boss." As a 22-year-old man, that was very validating. Oh my goodness. It made me feel like I was somebody. And then the doors shuttered and I had nothing and I felt like nobody. And I realized I have to build up something else inside of me and around me to find value in of who Elijah is besides a business, money, cars, houses, things, just things, guys. They're just things. So anyway, I appreciate you watching. If you've been watching, it's been an interesting first episode. Just shooting from the hip. This is all unscripted. We are just going to talk about real life issues and dive into it deeply and really have some interesting conversations. And don't worry, not every one of these podcasts is going to be just me. I'm going to start lining up guests. We're going to bring them in. We're going to address some of these topics and have some real meaningful conversations about them, and hopefully provide some answers to you. So I appreciate you for joining me. Thank you again for watching the Real Rebels podcast with me, your host, Elijah De La Garza. We'll see you guys next time. God bless and aloha.